Now, the Inflation Reduction Act provides incentives for a variety of energy efficient home improvements. And to kickstart this process, the first step is to assess the energy needs of your home. This evaluation will help inform decisions on your plan to make energy efficient upgrades to your home and how to maximize the credits and rebates provided by the IRA and other programs. So to help us make sense of this, our special guest tonight is Gerardo Roca of the Center for Energy and Environment. Gerardo is an outreach specialist who assists with increasing awareness of and participation in the center's residential programs by building relationships and conducting community-based marketing. Gerardo, it's all yours.
All right. Well, thanks for having me. I can get started with my presentation. So let me go ahead and share my screen and go ahead and find the right screen. There we go. So can everyone see the slideshow? Go ahead and start if I can find it. There we go. All right. So yeah, so this is about home energy audits and the first steps to start electrifying. And like Jason said, my name is Gerardo. I am a bilingual outreach specialist with Center for Energy and Environment. And I'm also bilingual in Spanish. So I also help with the Spanish-speaking community, trying to bring some awareness to these programs as well. So just starting with a little bit about CEE. We're a nonprofit out of Minneapolis, and we have a couple of offices in downtown Minneapolis and on St. Paul on Midway neighborhood, Warren Brown University. That's where the Home Energy Squad program is based out of. And CEE, we're driven by collaboration, expertise, science, community, integrity, and equity. Those are our mission that we stand for. And at our core, we are dedicated to programs, doing some research about ways to increase energy efficiency, consulting, with homeowners and communities to find energy saving solutions. Policy, we know that a lot of what goes around with energy efficiency is very policy driven. So if there's no policy to help us out, there's not really a whole lot to go on. So we really strive to get some policy at the state level. And we also provide lending. A lot of these improvements are very expensive. So we have focus on lending, and since we are a nonprofit, we have very low to no interest rates on our loans. So we're very forgiving with our loans. So I'd like to start with understanding your home envelope and how to go about weatherizing and sealing your home. So how do you know if your home is losing energy? So home envelope, what we like to call, is really the condition parts of your house. So everything not including the attic, if it's an unfinished basement, and the garage. And this is where a lot of the energy is lost at a home, especially the attic. A not properly insulated attic is when you're going to lose most of your energy. And walls is also another one, but it's not the most needed for insulation. And then we're going to lose some energy through the basement as well if we don't have properly sealed rim joists in the basement. And proper ventilation also helps with having good energy efficiency. Windows is also another option. It's usually not the worst, just because there's not a whole lot of insulation that goes on the window to begin with. So a leaky window is not usually the worst thing that you can have in a home. Definitely not worse than low attic insulation, like we see there. Then some signs of air leakage, dry, itchy skin, static electricity in the winter, frequent humidifier use in the summer. So the purpose of the insulation of ventilation is managing indoor moisture and odors, help maintain a healthy home and well ventilated. So if you don't have really nice sealed ventilation, that can cause some ice dams. I'm sure everybody here knows how an ice dam works. Heat rises and melts the snow and then creates a dam that freezes and then just holds that water back, and it might go into the walls if you don't take care of it properly. So air sealing is a nice way to fix some of those ice dams. Trying to find if there's a vent that's leaky, and then you put some sealing on it, and that would help. But it can also be bad attic insulation or spotty attic insulation that might having a spot where that insulation is that heat is leaking through the insulation. So attic insulation, the current code is to be insulated to an R50 value. That just means the value to which it retains heat. So if you decide to do some insulation work in your attic, we do have a list of eligible contractors through CEE. And as part of your home energy visit, we do look at the attic insulation. And if we decide that that's an area of improvement, then we can work after the visit to help you through that process. So before and after on getting some attic insulation work done, you can see there's a lot of ice dams or icicles, and then there's spotty areas in the roof where there's no snow, where it's melting and it's causing those ice dams. So you want it to look like the picture on the right, where there's no icicles and there's no spotty spots on the roof. Empty wall cavities, especially on homes that are before the 70s or the 80s, that's usually where you're going to find things like this. Solution to that is to pump some wall insulation. If you're already looking into replacing your siding, that is a good opportunity to look at the wall insulation, just because it'll make it a lot easier to get those that siding off, and in order to pump that insulation through the wall. And then year-round, the home envelope works by keeping hot air in the attic in the summer and keeping it from going into the cool home, and keeping cold air in the winter and keeping it from going into the warm home, or more properly, keeping warm air from escaping into the cold attic. So I like to show this just to put things into perspective. About half of the homes in Minnesota are built pre-energy code, so that would be in 1976, meaning that 50% of the homes are most likely not properly insulated. Even then, up until the mid-80s, contractors were not really abiding by that energy code, and wasn't really being enforced. So there's some homes that are built 5 years, 6 years, maybe in 10 years after that energy code, that still don't have proper insulation. If you're looking into the 90s and to the present, there might be some cases where you had a crappy contractor that tried to skim you on the insulation, and it didn't get checked with the on an inspection, and then you have poor insulation, or maybe not 100% up to code, or you might have had a critter that went into your attic and dug up a hole in the insulation, and now you have a spot where there's no insulation. So it's always good to go up into your attic and check the insulation every once in a while, like every 10 years really, or if you can tell that there's some ice dams, that's probably the first thing to check. And as part of the home energy visit, we do check the attic and the attic insulation and make sure that that's up to code. So if you're looking to have a sustainable home, I like to show this graph. It all starts at low cost to no cost changes, all the way up to the more expensive changes, which would be renewable energy. The cheapest thing that you can do to become more sustainable is just change your behavior a little bit, meaning, remembering to close the or shut the lights when you leave the house, turn that thermostat down a little bit more in the winter, not use the air conditioner as much in the summer, opening the windows a little bit more when it's cool outside. Things like that can have a little bit of an impact, and it's free to do. And then when you're looking at a higher cost, but still not super expensive, investment, things like lighting, air sealing, and insulation and ventilation. Just changing the light bulbs in the house, going around checking to see if you have any air leaks. A lot of the time people think that they have leaky windows, but in reality, it's more like they have leaky trim. So that might be as cheap as just putting some caulking around the trim, and that helps with the leakiness of the window without having to replace the whole window. Insulation and ventilation, it's getting up there in price, but it's probably gonna be the most effective way to become more sustainable, just because insulation here, where we have the weather that swings so much between summer and winter, having good insulation is just going to be a game changer. And then you get into more expensive things like heating and cooling and water heating. That actually involves buying a huge piece of equipment and having it installed and having somebody in to do that for you. But the difference is going to be there, especially in the heating and cooling. If you're looking into replacing an air conditioner with a heat pump, that is going to come in very handy, just because that heat pump can handle a lot of cold days in the summer to provide some heat. And that's a lot of gas that you're not burning, and that you're not spending on gas, because gas is more expensive than electricity. So you're going to be reducing your carbon footprint and not spending as much on gas if you switch to a heat pump. And then water heating, same thing. If you switch to heat pump water heater, it's going to use less energy than an electric water heater. It's a lot more energy efficient, and it reduces your carbon footprint, especially if you're switching from a gas tankless water heater. That's going to make a world of difference. And then you're getting into like the more expensive things like windows and appliances. Appliances, I'm putting in like a heat pump dryer in there and like an induction stove. Those are going to be a little bit more pricey. And windows, we know that windows are very expensive. And a lot of time, just because there's not a whole lot of heat going through your windows, they're usually not the most energy efficient way to go about things. And renewable energy being the more expensive of all of them, and probably the most sustainable one. Putting solar panels up on your roof, or having some sort of energy coming from a windmill if you live out in rural Minnesota, where having wind energy is a little more feasible. But yeah, these are the steps to become more sustainable. And then some common opportunities for electrification. Replacing appliances is probably the most accessible to people, and probably the most immediate thing that you can do. So looking into replacing an electric, if you have a gas stove still, replacing that with an electric stove or induction stove. The induction stove is probably going to be the most energy efficient. They're still a little inaccessible price-wise and availability-wise, but if you can find one, they're a pretty good alternative to a gas or an electric stove. And then we're looking into heat pump water heaters. They work great. They do have some downsides, meaning that they condition the air around them a little bit, which sounds great in the summer if you have a humid basement, but not so great in the winter if you have some stuff around your basement and then it gets cold. They're bigger than regular water heaters, but they use a lot less energy and they're a lot greener than just regular electric water heaters, and they keep that water hot for a long time. And then heat pump dryers. These are recently new. They're still not super widely available, but they are a great replacement to old dryers. The only downside of them is that they do take a little bit longer to dry your clothes, and they do need a drainage, just because they work by sucking, like a heat pump, like an air conditioner, sucking the humidity out of the air and condensing it and draining it. So you do need a drain plug for them. But if you have them in the same place as your washer, you can just use the same drainage plug as the washer and share that with the washer and dryer. And since they take a little bit longer to dry your clothes, they're gentler. So if you don't mind waiting a little bit longer, it's not gonna wrinkle up or shrink some of your clothes. And the big one are heat pumps. I'm sure people here are a little bit more familiar with heat pumps than the regular person, but they cool spaces in the summer. That's usually their main purpose, but they can also heat for part of the winter. Depending on how well insulated your home is, they can keep up with the heat for very low temperatures. But we're looking at an average of like 25 degrees usually before you have to switch to a backup system. But if your home is very well insulated and you have very good backup systems, they can handle down to the negatives or zero. But that would be an exceptionally well insulated home. And if you don't have an air conditioning system, you can still get a heat pump for heat. And then you'll get that benefit of having some air conditioning. It used to be a ductless system. Then you would have a head, like those cassette heads in certain spots in the house. And then a heat pump technician can determine the best and more efficient way to install those heads. A common misconception is that you need a head in every room. You don't necessarily need those. You can get around by installing some sort of vent that can get some air from one room to another and share the load of one head around multiple rooms. So that is one thing that can be done. If you currently don't have a central air conditioning system, we can still get a ductless heat pump in there. And you get that benefit of having electric heat that is not baseboard heat in the winter. That's very energy efficient. It's like basically running an air conditioner in reverse. You're drawing cold air from outside and pushing it inside down to a certain temperature. Okay, now we're talking about Home Energy Squad. So Home Energy Squad is the program that we do at Center for Energy and Environment for home energy audits. It is funded by the utilities, Xcel Energy Center, and not Xcel Energy, Xcel Energy and CenterPoint Energy. It's funded by them and it's run by us, CEE, the nonprofit. So it's available to CenterPoint and Xcel customers for homes 1 to 4 units. We really don't do multi-unit housing just because that's a different system that we need to have our auditors trained in, and that would be a different sector. But we do up to a fourplex, so duplex, triplex, and fourplex. And it's available to homeowners and renters. And the in-home visit includes installation of energy-saving products So if we see any old incandescent bulbs, we'll replace them with LED bulbs. If you like to upgrade your thermostat, we can do that as well. We can install a smart or a programmable thermostat, and look if you are eligible to get a water saving shower head or faucet. So those are optional. A lot of people don't like the water saving shower head just because it uses a lot less water. But we carry them with us. If anybody wants them, we'll install them. So yeah, like I said, we install the aerators and shower heads, LED bulbs. We look at the attic. So we go up into the attic and take a look at the insulation levels. We measure it and make sure that it lines up with what your contractor left on that. A lot of the times, like I said, if you have a crappy contractor, they will say that they put in 12 inches of insulation, and then you measure it and it's only like 6 inches. So that is we do measure it and make sure that it's all in there and it matches up. And if it doesn't, we'll let you know, and let you know that you might need to pump in more insulation up in your attic. And then we look at if you need more weather stripping for that attic hatch. The attic hatch is also a common spot for energy loss. If it's not properly sealed, we might be able to put a new weather stripping on it so you don't get any energy loss through the attic hatch. And we also have free thermostats as part of the AC rewards program. That is basically a program where Excel is able to control the temperature of your home based on if there's an energy emergency, or we get one of those days that is really cold and we need to reduce the work on the load. So Excel might be able to turn down your thermostat in that case, but you do get a free thermostat out of that. And probably the most important thing that we do is the diagnostics test. We do a blower door test, and that is basically to pressurize the home. We put a giant fan on the front door and try to push as much air out of the house. And what that essentially does is simulating like 20-mile-an-hour winds hitting the home from both directions. So we can see if there's any air leaks coming into the house. So we walk around and check for the common spots where there's usually air leaks, like the attic hatch, windows, rim joists, all that stuff. And that'll help us determine how tight the house is. And that'll give us a number, and we can let you know at the end of the visit where we're at and where the common spots are. If we are able to, we will do an infrared camera. In order for that to work, we need it to be a 20-degree difference between the inside and the outside of the house. So it works best in the winter and when it's really hot in the summer, like it is today, and you have your air conditioner at 70 and it's 90 degrees outside. We can run the infrared camera in that case. And that'll let us know if we can tell the temperature difference and see where the air is coming in the house and help visualize that. But it's not necessary. We can still do that. The infrared is just really nice to help visualize where there are air leaks. And then we also run a combustions safety check on the water heater and furnace. Not the water heater, just the furnace. So the furnace, sometimes it can backfire if there's a sudden depressurization in the home. And we want to make sure that if that happens, there's not a bunch of gas just being pumped into the house without being burned. So for some furnaces that are self-venting, it might be a good thing to check that and make sure that, if you have your you have all the windows and doors are closed, and then you have the dryer running and the bathroom fan running and the kitchen fan running, and that's a lot of air being sucked out of the house, and you have an air recirculation system, that might cause the furnace to backfire, and want to make sure that if that happens, the pilot light will go on by itself again, and there's not a bunch of gases going out into the house. So we run a test for that as well. And that is not the end of, at the end of the visit, that is not the end of what we do with you. You get an energy fitness plan, and we'll let you know if there's any work that needs to get done in the house. And then you get access to our team of energy advisors, and they will help guide you through the process of finding a contractor if you need to get installation done. If you qualify to get a new furnace for free, they will connect you to the proper channels to get that. If you don't qualify for those, but you might qualify for other programs, they can help you navigate those and do that. They'll help you write a quote in case you need to write a quote for a contractor. So there's a lot that goes on after the visit. It doesn't have to end at the end of the visit after we pull the van out of your driveway. So in the energy fitness plan, that's what it looks like. So it'll show you, you need to insulate your walls, probably upgrade to a high efficiency boiler, insulate the attic, or if you don't have a boiler, a high efficiency furnace. And it shows like how it works. If you have packed cellulose in there, and it needs to be added. I know over time, sometimes the cellulose in the walls will pack down to the bottom if you might have a little bit of a insulated, that space is not insulated at the top of the wall, so we might have to pump in more insulation to get that wall fully insulated. And all the pictures that we take in the house goes on that plan. So there's like a before and after photo with the infrared. So with that photo right there, you can tell that attic hatch is not well insulated, and there's a lot of cold air coming through the attic hatch. Same thing with that wall there. You can tell that wall is cold, and that probably means that there is some insulation that is packed down, and then the top of that wall cavity now is not insulated, so there's some cold air leaking through there. And then we also help you through the rebates process. So there's a lot of rebates through the utilities and through the state, and with the Inflation Reduction Act and the Homes Act, there's going to be a lot of rebates and tax credits. So we are getting prepared for that. And so if you need to do any work, we will look for any resource, again, that helps you in that includes rebates from anywhere that we can find. And if you do decide to go forward with the work to pump in more insulation, we do help write quotes, and we'll write the quote for you and connect you to the contractors that we are familiar with and that we have vetted. And this is our energy advisor team. They'll help you review the report, listen to the goals. They'll tell you the highest impact areas, connect you with the contractors, like I said, ensure the best rebates. And also, if you don't qualify for rebates, or if there's still a big chunk that the rebates don't cover, we do have, like I said, we do have a financing department. So they will also help you connect with the financing department and see if we can get you a loan through the CEE financing. And like I said, those are low interest to no interest. For residents of Minneapolis, just no questions asked. There's no interest on any loans. for Minneapolis residents, but other cities do have their own programs. We do have 22 partner cities around the metro. Not even the metro. We do have a couple that are outside the metro, but it's mostly in the metro. And they also have their own programs that might help you with that. And all of our partner cities also have a half-off discount when you do get an energy audit. And energy audits are also part of the Inflation Reduction Act. So if you get a home energy audit, that is tax deductible. So you do get not tax deductible, that is, you get a tax credit if you get an energy efficiency audit up to $150, or audits are $100. So energy audit is completely covered under the Inflation Reduction Act. You just get your money back when you file for taxes. And if you do decide to sign up for a energy visit, you get $30 off for attending this workshop today. And if anybody's interested, you can either call that number if you'd rather talk to somebody, or you can visit that website and sign yourself up. I'll also put the link on the chat if anyone's interested in signing up today. And we do also have visits for income qualified households based on income size and household size. We do free visits. So if any of those numbers apply to you, that means they qualify for a free visit through our income qualified program. And that is all I have for you today. And I can take any questions if anybody has any. Oh, so best non-toxic insulation materials for the home. So right now, probably the best would be batting. You can just take it up there and roll it down. But we can also spray fiberglass, but that is not usually the best. You just gotta be really careful with who breathes it in. There is also cellulose, but that's more for walls. We can also spray cellulose up in the attic, but doesn't have the right R value for attics. And then somebody else asked, does it work with Dakota Electric customers? It does. It doesn't work 100% with all of the features of the program. You wouldn't be able to get a full audit, but you can still, I believe you can still get the what we call a walkthrough. So we go around and check for check the attic insulation. We wouldn't be able to do the blower door test or the installs, unfortunately, with Dakota Electric. I'm guessing it's in part of the South Metro where it's Dakota Electric for electricity and Merck for gas. Unfortunately, it's mostly for Excel and or Centerpoint. And then, is it worthwhile to replace a 20-year-old electric stove with an induction stove? I would look at the, oh yeah, I'll stop sharing my screen. There we go. I would say it is, I would check how much power it is drawing. You can rent a measuring device from libraries, and you can plug it in and see how much power it's drawing. And then you can look online for a model of an induction stove and see how much power those use, and then compare and see if it's working. 20-year-old is not, it's not super old. It might still be decent, but if you are looking into really wanting an induction stove, and then if that power that it's drawing, it's really high, that might be something that's worth considering to upgrade to an induction stove. And then what percentage of those who audit actually go ahead and do work? I don't have exact numbers for that. I believe a good amount of people, I would say about half, already have pretty decent insulation and pretty decent air sealing. A lot of the time, like I said, it would be as easy as just putting some caulking on the window trim, or putting some weather stripping on the attic, putting some weather stripping on the doors. A lot of the time, it's just very easy, very simple solutions. Most common would be with homes pre-80s would be very bad or non-existent wall insulation, or very low attic insulation that you would need to get that done. I'd say about half, or a little bit less than half, of everybody who does an audit actually needs to work. And of those, I would say about, educated guess, about 3/4 of them go ahead and do the work. It looks like we have a couple of raised hands. Go with Mary.
Yeah, I thought I heard you say towards the end of your presentation that MNCEE is providing 0% financing. Did I hear that correctly?
We do for Minneapolis residents. So if you live in Minneapolis, it's a part of our partnership with the city.
Okay.
Any loan after you have an audit would be zero interest loan through CEE. So it would be for energy efficiency upgrades. So again, that would be like insulation, buying energy efficient appliances, air conditioner, heat pump.
Okay, because on your website it doesn't call that out, but and is that something where there's a limited amount of money per year? So like if I wanted a loan towards the end of the year, I might be charged interest? I feel like I heard that. Or is it always 0%?
It should always be 0%.
Okay.
It is those that requirement might be with other cities or other programs. I know there's other nonprofits that have their own loan programs that might have changing conditions. But as far as I know, Minneapolis residents get your interest loans after you get an audit done. So it's not like you can just be like, hey, I'm a Minneapolis resident, can I have a low or zero interest loan? You have to have it after.
Okay. Thank you.
And then I have a question here. Tim, do you have a question?
Yeah, Gerardo, I think you said something about the federal tax credit is up to $150 off of a energy audit.
Yeah.
But my understanding, it can only cover 30% of the cost. Is that yours as well?
Yes. Sorry,
Okay.
I should have mentioned that. Yes. So it's 30% of the cost, up to $150 for an energy audit. So.
Okay. And did you say that you had a discount code? What is that magic discount code?
Yeah. So it would be save 30. And I can put it in the chat. And then I can also put in the link to schedule if you like to self-schedule. And then the phone number, if you like to call. That's the phone number. And looks like we have question. Can stucco home walls be insulated from attic to prevent exterior holes in walls? I don't believe so. Mainly just because depending on the type of roof, if it's like a story and a half or like a story and a quarter, might be able to do it from the knee wall. But again, that's in the inside of the home, but it's not an exterior hole. Unfortunately, with stucco, if it's a first story wall, it would have to be done from the outside and have a kind of a mismatch hole on the outside of your home. Unfortunately, that's the case. And then another question is, do you require a certain credit score for the loan? I'm not familiar with the credit score requirements for the loan. As far as I'm concerned, we are pretty loose with the qualifications for a loan. I don't think we have a hard minimum, but that might be something that you can talk to financial department after you're done the visit and you're ready to take out a loan. Or you might not even require a loan. You might be able to have a I can't come up with the word grant that might be able to cover for most or all of it. Yeah, it's subject to credit and loan guidelines. Yeah, like I said, it's I don't think we have a hard credit limit. Might be something that might be able to work around. But we do take credit into consideration, but it's not a hard requirement. It looks like Hobart, we have a hand raised.
Yeah, thanks, Geraldo. I'm part of a group doing a weatherization and electrification project in my city. And it's got a population of about 25,000. This is more an editorial, and so I'll try and keep it short. And we recently ran a program for putting solar panels on rooftops, and we got about 250 out of 8,000 to 9,000 residences to put on solar. And my biggest concern is that this group and many people that are interested in this are early adapters. In other words, yeah, programmable thermostat, yeah, this kind of spray foam or that kind of spray foam, we're willing to go through the work to do it. And the challenge that I have here is that we need to weatherize and electrify about 3,000 of those residences based on when they were built and that sort of thing. And that's a huge, huge task. And the things that we have thought about are that weatherization and electrification are boring, at least compared to solar. And so somehow we have to, I keep saying we have to make it simple. We have to make it low entry or no entry. And we have to make it, I don't know, honest, trustworthy, straightforward, so that.
Hobart,
yeah.
I've done a lot of work on this, and in my neighborhood, I actually have a YouTube video where
Great.
we looked at return on investment. So you're not going to get some people because they're just not interested in the environment, but everybody's interested in money. And you actually, according to studies done, and I've included charts in this, you make money by insulating your home. It doesn't matter, it'll take a while to get a return on your investment, or if you're gonna sell your house, you get the money back right away. But there's a lot there, and it doesn't answer everything you're asking, but it is one way to get a part of the population to start looking at this.
Yeah, on weatherization, I get it, but when we start to invest in things like heat pumps and, you know, the prices kind of go up, and there's an implied assumption. I'm asking a question. If you had $15,000 to invest or do something with, would you put it into your kids' college fund, or would you buy a new truck, or would you electrify your home? And that's kind of the barrier. So we're looking at trying to market this as comfort, health, and lastly, economic, because in Georgia, I don't know what the rates are in Minnesota. I know in Minnesota is about 52% non-carbon energy, but in Georgia, there is no net metering. There is, you know, our rates are pretty high. And so going electric isn't going to be an economic, you know, your electric bill, your energy bills are not necessarily going to go radically down. So we've got a marketing problem, and I'm just kind of throwing it out. If somebody wants to take it offline and have a discussion about it, because I keep scratching my head. If I try to pick a big rock to roll up a hill, I'm very dedicated to rolling that rock up, but it's a huge rock, it seems to me, to go all the way. Not for weatherization. Weatherization, I think, by itself, insulation and that kind of thing, but that's only part of the story.
Yeah, Hobie, for people that can put solar, that would reduce their electricity costs, would it not?
Yeah, it would. And I was on a Chicago climate reality meeting last week, which anybody who's interested can get the slides from Tom Coleman. And the two people that were actually electrifying their homes were leaving solar. One left solar as the last thing, and one did solar before they electrified. And they were like, took care of 92% of their costs when they did that, and they had electric cars. So it was a pretty fascinating summary. But it's just something I think that climate reality members ought to think about is, we get the technology, we always don't get what's between here. And we got to figure out how to do that if we're going to make a big change for, you know, within 10 years. And by the way, I had an energy audit yesterday. It was my second one in 5 years, because the first one, I wasn't satisfied with it. And my temperature in my house goes up and down. And so, yeah. Thank you. Thanks for listening, I guess. But if anybody's got ideas, I'd love to talk about it. And Mary, I'd like to take a look at your economic.
Yeah, I mean, I think and I don't want to take up a lot of time because a lot of you have heard my talks and stuff, but our neighborhood, we're working on bringing our natural gas down by 25%, and that's insulation and electrification. I mean, we're in an old part of the city, so we have to look at insulation. And we are outpacing the overall city rate in our neighborhood by 50%. That's based on the first year's numbers coming back from CenterPoint. So I understand what you're saying. I always start with insulation and then segue into the electrification. And if I could only get my mother's sewing group to really all be envious of each other's heat pumps, then I know I have broken the code. So, but we're not there yet.
You're way ahead of me. I can't get the link to work. If you could try it again. Thank you.
Well, I encourage everyone to get an energy audit if you can. I signed up for one 3 weeks ago, and I couldn't get in until October. So you might want to sign up for it right now. After rebates and everything, your cost will be around $70. So you got that. And Gerardo, a question for you.
Yeah.
You mentioned that roofing, I think they're recommending R50. I was reading that there's a proposal to increase that to R60. Do you know anything about that, or?
I don't. That's the first time I hear about it. But I mean, that would be great, especially if we want to make cold weather heat pumps work in Minnesota. the more insulation will be the better. We're trying to get to 100% renewable energy by 2040 now. I know that they count nuclear in there, but it getting off of gas is going to take a lot, and heat pumps are probably the best way to get off of gas electricity right now. I don't think it'll be feasible to put baseboard heaters in everybody's home. That would be a huge draw on the grid. So heat pumps will be the best way to go. Unfortunately, where we're at for heat pumps right now, they struggle past a certain point, and for most people, R50, that's gonna get you down to, in probably the single digits when you need to switch to a backup heating system. And that's considering like perfect air sealing in the house. If you don't have perfect air sealing, that switch over temperature might be higher. But on those days that it's -25, we need everybody to be able to heat their home with a heat pump. And somebody asked, what do you recommend for backup heat if you want to get completely off gas? That's tough. Currently, it would be gas. The other option would be baseboard heating. I mean, I wouldn't recommend getting baseboard heating if you don't already have it. Where we are at right now, it would be try to get those heat pumps in as soon as you can, and then get that insulation as good as you can in order to keep that heat pump working at a very low temperature. Looks like somebody got electric coils put upstairs. That might be an option. I'm not sure how what the upfront cost for that would be and how long it would take for that return on investment to work. And like Hobart said, a lot of the big issue is that upfront cost. Not a lot of people that are as environmental minded as we are would be like, oh, I'm doing it to help electrify. A lot of people are going to look at it and be like, oh, it costs this much to get off of gas, and then I'll stick to gas until they make me get off of it. So that those might be the radiant floor heating. Yeah, those would be like the good heating options that are not gas. But just speaking like from wide general public, that unfortunately gas would be that backup system for most people. But yeah, getting floor heating, that would be a good alternative option if you're willing to get that upfront cost in there.
And it should be pointed out that there's big money coming down through BIL and IRA to incentivize people to get these systems, up to $8 grand for low income. I'm not sure the definition, and half of that for moderate income. I don't know where the breakdowns are, but they're trying to get people to do this in a fairly serious way. Once the states figure out how to make the money flow, and it's supposed to be any time, we should hear from Department of Commerce for us.
Yeah, I believe those it's 80 to 150%. That's what they consider 80 to 150% of the median area income for low income, and then 150% would be the cutoff line where you wouldn't qualify for any of the rebates. Yeah. So yeah, there's like different levels. I do have that with me if anybody is curious to know what those are.
Yeah, why don't you show us?
I can pull it up from our previous presentation, Tim. So I can pull it up here and share it.
He has a chart that shows the area medium income for the Twin Cities. So
Yeah, so
Yeah, the tiers available from the federal programs are what's interesting. They're not just saying, oh, it's just for low income. It's like they're trying to open it up, and you get as much as $4,000 for a system for medium income, moderate income, whatever it's called.
yeah, so so these are the income guidelines, and then the cutoff would be, so that's the tax credits, electric vehicles. Thought I had it in here. Oh, here it is. So below 80% of the AMI claim 100% of the upgrades up to $14,000. From 80 to 150%, you can claim half of the cost up to $14,000. If you are at over 150% of the AMI, you don't qualify for this. So
Gerardo, do you know if that area medium income is your total of all of your income, or is that your adjusted income, like the Social Security account, that kind of stuff?
yeah, it's any taxable income. So whatever
Taxable income.
taxable income, yeah. So whatever you pay taxes on, that's what it's based off. And it's for it's for the Minneapolis-St. Paul Bloomington statistical area. So this is the chart here. So 80% for one person will be $62,000 a year. And then it goes off more than that. 100% would be 82,740 for one person.
Well, it sounds like now that Social Security is exempt in Minnesota up to 100,000, maybe we qualify, or they still got the federal part?
It would be based on federal. So
so whatever you pay in your Social Security on the federal side.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And somebody's asking if they can get a copy of this. Yeah, I can send a copy of this presentation, and if anybody's interested, it covers more stuff, more in-depth stuff about heat pumps, but it also has a good chunk on where the IRA is at right now. So again, what's in here, take it with a grain of salt. It can change whenever they come out with the numbers that are supposed to be set in stone later this year. But this is the perspective numbers.
Looks good.
Gerardo, do you know if those are going to be updated with inflation, or to scale with inflation? Because I know those original numbers weren't based on like the 7% inflation rate.
I am not sure. I have not heard anything about them being adjusted by inflation. It is a 10-year program, so you would assume that they wanted to change with inflation, because 10 years is a long time. And we've seen how much inflation has changed in the last 3 years. So, but I have not heard anything about them changing with inflation. The incomes do change every year, is based on the HUD, the Department of Housing and Urban Development. It is based on the guidelines that HUD puts out every year. So that might be their way of adjusting it. but the money amount that you get for the rebates, I believe that is not depending on inflation.
All right, Gerardo, I wonder if we could just to break, we're at the bottom of the hour. So I'd like to do is just do some closing announcements, and then I think we've got maybe 2 more questions. We can just kind of hold open for discussion if anyone has more questions. First thing I want to do is say thank you very much for a fantastic presentation. So virtual applause there. And I just want to remind everyone to join our next meeting on Thursday, July 13th at 6:30. We'll be joined by State Representative Emma Greenman to talk about the Minnesota Climate Innovation Finance Authority. Thanks for joining, and we'll keep the line open for any questions if anyone wants to stick around. All right, Alex, I think you had a question.
You're muted, Alex.
Sorry, I never actually took my hand down.
Oh, okay.
I was driving. Back from CEE, actually.
Oh, there you go. Mary, do you have a comment, question?
I have a question, actually. A friend of mine, actually a lot of people in the neighborhood are they're getting rid of their central air units. And this seems like a key time to get these people to get heat pumps instead. And my friend who's trying to do this got the runaround a lot from the contractors that she approached. And I kept telling her, I'm like, call CEE, they'll walk you through the whole thing. So hopefully she'll eventually do that. What seemed to be a stumbling block was none of the contractors really knew what the protocol was. Like, did they have to get a special model? Like what, I mean, I don't know anything about HVAC, so I don't know how hard it is to replace central air with a heat pump. So I guess it's 2 parts. How hard is it to replace central air with a heat pump? And then 2, is there special hoops people have to jump through?
Yeah, so a lot of contractors are not either reluctant to work with heat pumps or are not properly trained to do heat pumps. So that's a roadblock that we run into. We do have, CE has an air source heat pump collaborative. And we do have a website with a list of recommended contractors. And I can put that on the chat as well. The second part of your question, the main roadblock that we see with contractors is sizing. It seems like a lot of contractors have been getting the sizing wrong. So that means either putting a heat pump that is too big for a home or too small. So we're either getting problems with like it not heating or not cooling enough, or the energy draw is more than people expected and they're actually not saving money. So sizing seems to be an issue. And also having a lot of contractors think that you can just take out the old unit, put in the old unit, set up the thermostat, and you're done. Also, the venting needs to get looked at. Sometimes the venting is not optimized for heat pumps, so the venting might need and the ductwork might need to get reworked so it works properly with a heat pump.
What if they have radiator heat, like boiler instead of a?
Yeah, so for that case, we would do a ductless system. So we would have to install an outdoor unit, and that is relatively easy. The main detractor for that would be finding a good spot for it where the it's like a little bit out of the elements and the ice doesn't get really thick,
Okay,
just because of that. If it's heating in the winter, that condensation will freeze, and you'll end up with a mountain of ice right underneath it.
okay,
So, and in that case, we would put the heads inside the home, and that's where we come up with like a lot of contractors think that, oh, you need to put a head in every room in order to get air conditioning around the home or heating around the home. Not necessarily the case. A lot of the times we can put a head in, like, we have to look at the floor plan and come up with a good way to, oh yeah, you have a heat pump head right there, a mini split head. So it would be sizing it up and see where the appropriate places to put a head is, and seeing if we can get away with putting some sort of duct between rooms so they can share the same head. A lot of people don't like it when you mention that, but I mean, it's better than not having AC or having to run propane in the winter all winter long.
Yeah, I would check. I put the link on Gerardo because I
Oh,
found
yeah.
about the air source heat pump collaborative. It's they're really trying to reach contractors as well as homeowners to get everybody informed, because the contractors, if they haven't worked heat pumps before, they think they're all 1990s era stuff. They have no idea. And if they can train these guys, which they're trying to do, they're trying to train contractors, get them on board, then they can recommend that these contractors know what they're doing. So I would look up at this CEE project there and check it out.
Yeah, the main I would say the biggest the most recognizable contractor that we see in here in this list is MSP Plumbing and Heating. But there's about 6 other contractors on that list, so there's some options. And Hobart, you have a question? Oh, you're muted.
Sorry, it was just a comment. I'm guessing 98% of people replace their furnaces, their air conditioning, their water heaters when they break and go out. So having a supply chain and working like you guys are with, an association to make sure there's inventory and training and that sort of thing, because you make this decision on the spur of the moment, and they're going to say, do you want to eat your peas with a fork or a knife? You're going to eat your peas and you're going to eat whatever they want, and making sure you got qualified contractors and that they're incented in some way to do the right thing here, as opposed to just push what's easiest for them.
Yeah. And yeah, we and as part of the visit, we do look at the air conditioning system and kind of guide people if they want to do a heat pump. Say, okay, your air conditioning system has about this much time left before you should be looking into replacing it, and your furnace has either a little bit less or a little bit more time. So usually what we recommend is, don't do the furnace and the air conditioner at the same time. If your furnace is still has some life to it and your air conditioner not quite, try to run that furnace as long as you can with the heat pump. And then when that furnace goes out, maybe look into other heating options that are not propane. So, or maybe down the line, the heat pumps or your insulation will be good enough where you don't have to worry about gas heat. So
I'll give a plug for heat pumps in this regard, that I work for I do the Department of Energy weatherization audits for a community action project. So I'm serving low-income households. And even in its very conservative, extremely carefully vetted program layout, the collaboration of the Department of Energy and the state, who rolls it out, so the Department of Commerce in Minnesota, are allowing that we can recommend heat pumps for houses that are currently all electric. We can't do mixed fuels yet, but they're just trying to be very cautious to make sure there are no grave errors or mistakes that make heat pumps look bad, because heat pumps are the future. Americans just are slow to uptake smart things. But once it's proven, on an all electric basis where it's obviously the right thing to do, then they'll start opening it up further. But the fact that these very conservative, in a sense, programs are allowing heat pumps to replace existing heating systems is a really good sign. They, of course, want to be sure that you have some kind of a backup. So if it's all electric, it'll probably be a standard resistive electric furnace behind your heat pump. But the heat pumps that are coming out now are good to most temperatures that you would encounter. Like, I think they're saying like 95% of the time or 97% of the time, even in our climate. Maybe in the far north, it's a little harder, but they even exist up there, but they're more expensive. The price goes up the farther down the temperature scale you want to be assured of heat.
Yeah. I was looking at our average temperatures here in the Minneapolis metro region, and really the days that we're at, the temperatures where you need to switch to a backup heat is like 7 days out of the year. There's not that many days, unless we get a rare cold snap that lasts like 2-3 weeks, maybe that extends those days. But it's really not that many days of the year. Most of our days in the winter are in the range of 20 to 32 degrees or 35 degrees. Sometimes we get those days where it's 25 in the morning, and then it gets up to 30 midday, and then it falls back down to like the mid-20s in the evening. That is, if you have a well insulated, not really a lot of leaks, you can run your heat pump on those temperatures, no problem. Yeah.
All right, folks. So I got to flee, so dinner awaits. But thanks for the discussion. So fantastic.
Thank you.
Yeah, and Gerardo, if you're okay with this, we'll post it online so people can see it on our YouTube channel. Okay.
Yeah, no worries.
Okay, excellent.
Thanks for priming the heat pump.
Good night, everyone. Thanks for coming.
Good night, everyone.